Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then, the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host Heidi, and today I have brought you some fun weird news stories. Hopefully nothing too creepy, but hopefully still weird, because that is what you're all here for. And I hope that the first story can start off the weirdness, but I also would say it's kind of cute, like in a little kid kind of way. It's kind of cute. Actually, this does relate to Christmas. I know that we are now into the new year. It's 2019. We're past the holidays, but just like one more Christmas story, because I have enjoyed the Christmas related stories. The ones that I have seen pop up on my news feed, a few of the ones that I have shared, I like them. So we are going into another Christmas weird news related story. And this story is about a young boy who called 911 because he got snow pants for Christmas. That seems like a pretty practical gift, so I don't know what that kid's talking about. I want snow pants for Christmas. So if he just wants to send, I couldn't wear his. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty small. Maybe I could. If someone wants to send me over some, I'd appreciate it. But I don't know. That's pretty rude. That sounds like a nice gift. And they're also probably expensive. And he's young, so he's going to grow out of them really fast. And his parents invested, even though they know that he's going to grow out of them. Anyway. So the Christmas gift was meant to keep this boy warm, but it left him feeling cruel. He is a 7-year-old Ontario boy. And he called 911 to report his cruel parents. Cruel is in air quotes. Unfortunately, you can't see it. I did it, even though it didn't sound like I did. But his cruel parents, they are not very cruel. The Ontario Provincial Police Sergeant Kearney Schmidt told the news that the unidentified boy made the call on Christmas Day because he was upset with his gift and wanted the police to help. Oh, man. Schmidt said the officers determined the call was not an emergency and no one was dispatched to the kid's house. I bet. Can you imagine as a parent and the police show up just because your kid, like, if you don't even know your kid called the police and they just show up about snow pants, like on Christmas too. I'd be mad about that. Anyway, so they determined it was not an emergency. No one was dispatched. However, the Chief Schmidt definitely thinks the child should be put on the naughty list because he just felt like that was not a proper use of 911. He also tweeted about it. He said a 7-year-old just got added to the naughty list after calling 911 to tell the hashtag OPP, which is the Ontario Provincial Police, that the snow pants he received for Christmas were not appreciated. Hashtag no one to call. I think that's legitimate because you don't want to take away efforts from some like actual crime. They mentioned this a little bit I will mention this. Schmidt said that even seamlessly innocent calls like that can affect efforts of the first responders because even non-urgent instances and fake emergency calls take up time and resources that should go to real emergencies. I agree. If the person hangs up, he said, we have to follow up on the person and go and track them down. We have to treat every call as an emergency. Well, clearly they did not treat this call as an emergency because no one came to track it down. But anyway, that is true, and that is a good thing because if you are in an emergency and suddenly you can no longer talk on the phone for whatever reason because of your emergency, you definitely want police who are going to still track you down, show up, try and figure out what went wrong, if you're okay. Like, that is still very important, and you still want that. Also, the police chief continued saying that he doesn't believe any charges will be filed against the child, and that he hopes to turn the incident into a teachable moment for other kids unhappy with their Christmas gifts. Aww. If you are unhappy with your Christmas gifts, please don't call the police. I didn't call the police when I didn't get snow pants. I'm not going to call the police about whatever other gifts I got for Christmas. Not that I have any reason to. My gifts were pretty good, so I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to call the police on these gift givers. Also, Sergeant Smith continued, kids need to realize that calling 911 is critical and serious. He said that we don't want to waste resources going after calls that aren't an emergency. Again, I agree. It's kind of funny that he posted about it. Also, yeah, that kid might be on the naughty list. I don't know if it's just that. It might take a few other strikes to get him on the naughty list, but you're getting there, kid. You're getting toward the naughty. That was not good of you. It's kind of funny, though. I do think it's pretty funny. It's kind of cute, too. Anyway, our next story is about a family who, this is also about Christmas. I lied. Although, I don't necessarily think this is about Christmas. This is just about the holidays. So it doesn't have to be because they went on a Christmas trip. It could be any sort of a holiday trip, even just a random trip for fun, not related to, like, the winter holidays, like Christmas or Hanukkah. Anyway, so a family was returning home from holiday travel, but they got an unwanted surprise as they tried to open the door to their house because the key didn't work. And there was a man inside their house that told them he now owned the house. That is terrifying. I would flip out. Like, they changed the lock? That's terrifying. Oh my God. Oh man. This is why we need people to not call the police on fake call. This wasn't a fake call. The kid meant well. But, he didn't mean well. He thought that his call was legitimate. Anyway, this is why we need to be careful about teaching kids when to call the police, because real emergencies like this happen and the police need to go show up and find out what's wrong. Anyway, this continued, saying that one of the homeowners, Janice Henson, said the man who she said had apparently changed the locks, told her he had a gun and wanted her to leave the county. They are in Cobb County, Georgia. He wanted them to leave the home, just vacate the premise because he owned it and he had a gun. That is terrifying. When police arrived on the scene, the man, who was later identified as 26-year-old Nathaniel Jacob Nicholas, allegedly told police he wanted to shoot them. Then, after a 5-hour standoff, police and SWAT officers busted through the front door of the house and used a robot to locate the accused squatter, who then surrendered and a weapon was not found. That is also strange to think of, a police robot that is going through the house and is supposed to find the person who says they have a gun. But anyway, also 5 hours. Yeah, at that point I'd be like, yeah, send in the robot, like whatever it takes to end the standoff. But yeah, so also there wasn't a gun that was even found. That's, oh man, just bluffing. So Nathaniel, that's bad. Also, the family continued that Nathaniel had left them notes thanking them for the key and thanking the family for letting him live there, and that it was still his house. So it's almost like saying, oh, thank you so much. It's still my house. Still get out. Also, apparently he had moved all the pictures, emptied the drawers, and had really made the house his. That is really creepy. I feel like almost after that, like, the house is cursed. I don't really believe in curses, but if there was anything to make me believe that a house was cursed, that would really be all it would take. Like, that's terrifying to think about. Like, someone just moved all your pictures and everything and, like, was just making it their own. That's really creepy. Also, Nicholas was booked for first-degree burglary, terroristic threats and acts, and willful destruction of a law enforcement officer, all according to his jail records. He did not have an attorney listed on file, so good luck with that. Also related, in 2017, another Georgia woman was greeted by an unknown family in her home, and she'd been trying to sell the home, but apparently the family, who had 2 small children, had been scammed over Craigslist, believing they were the legal owners of the house. That's kind of sad. Like, that's kind of scary, but it's also sad. And, like, who scammed this couple over Craigslist? That's awful. Like, some third party, like, terrible force out there. that it's just like convincing people that they can move into a house. That's weird, and I feel really bad for that family. I like to believe they really needed the house, so like they weren't malicious necessarily, but that's really scary. Also, again, I would totally freak out if there was someone else in my house. There's no way I would keep cool about that. None at all. I would be so scared. I'm so sorry to these families who have to go through this because, yeah, I would not handle that well. Also, to Nathaniel who broke into their house, yeah, you're doomed. I don't think you stand a chance in court. You don't have an attorney listed. There's no way you're going to talk yourself out of that. Also, why? Like, I like to imagine you had a reason, like you were homeless or something like that, but like, that's not good. Also, you just took their stuff down. You know that's not your house. You can't look at pictures of someone's family on a mantle and then think that, well, it's too bad for them. It's still my house. That doesn't work like that. That's still not good. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break, and then right after the break, we'll be back with some more weird news stories.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the Weird News Podcast. Continuing to talk about some weird news stories. I have another one that is weird, but also just funny and kind of ridiculous. Anyway, this is about a man who assaulted a convenience store employee with a banana. That does sound like a dirty joke, but I think they mean that it actually happened, like with fruit. Anyway, the man who was in Des Moines, Iowa, was jailed after police said he assaulted a convenience store clerk. The man, Rogelio Tapia, who's 26, got into a dispute with an unnamed person at a Quick Trip convenience store. The store clerk tried to intervene, and then witnesses said that this man, Rogelio, chased the clerk around the store, throwing a banana and other items at her. So this man, Rogelio Tapia, got into a dispute with just a random person, so not necessarily the clerk, at this convenience store. But then the clerk tried to intervene, and then this man, Rogelio, chased the clerk around and like threw a banana at her, which is ridiculous. But apparently, the disturbance caused about $1,000 in damage to the store. That is terrible. Like, what else did he throw? Like $1,000 worth of bananas? Like, I don't know what else he threw. Also, of all the things at the convenience store, like the bananas are like, there are like 5 bananas at a convenience store full of like thousands of bags of chips or like beef jerky. I'm surprised that the bananas is what went. Anyway, this man, Rogelio, was charged with assault in persons in certain occupations, simple assault, interference with official acts, and third-degree criminal mischief. Again, I did not know about the charge of mischief until I started doing this podcast. That's a funny charge to me. Also, jail records show that he was later released for whatever reason, and the Des Moines Police Department posted a photo of the arresting officer and said on Facebook that the incident was one of more than 270 New Year's calls for police service. So that is a busy day. Also, I feel bad for officers who have to go to all of those calls. No wonder they're like a grim-faced officer. I would be. Also, I'd be really upset after chasing someone who just had a banana. Like, come on, man. I'd be pissed about that. I can't take that seriously. Also, that is just so rude to just throw a banana at someone. Clearly, they threw other things. Also, they were already rude because they were fighting with someone else in the store. But still, that still gets me. That's rude. You shouldn't do that. Also, I'm curious as to why he was released. I mean, maybe I don't know if he had bail and he paid it, but whatever. So I have another story for you all, and this is also about like breaking and entering and like strangers, which kind of makes me a little more concerned about my safety and the safety of my home. So this story is about a woman who discovered a drunk man sleeping with her mastiff, with her dog. A 150-pound mastiff, to be specific, and this happened in Wisconsin. This also was a New Year's Day event, so man, New Year's Day crimes, gosh. I guess actually, maybe that means Rogelio was drunk, because that would make more sense. Like a New Year's Day type incident. I could see that happening. I feel like then he'd be charged with like drunk disorderly conduct, which I don't believe he was. So, no, he wasn't. Anyway, perhaps that could explain this behavior. Anyway, okay, so there is the woman whose house this was, and whose dog, Lynn Sarver, said that she found a strange man sleeping with her giant 150-pound mastiff, whose name is Benton, on the doggy bed. So both of them were sharing the doggy bed on New Year's morning. This is a quote from her. She said, "I woke up and saw someone over here on this dog bed." And she said that her and her roommate then ran into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and then they were super scared. They called 911 to report the intrusion, which, yeah, I would definitely report the intrusion. I don't know if you guys are the type of people who would just, like, fight off the intruder. I am definitely not that type of person. Also, I feel like I just keep talking about how small I am, which makes me, like, a bigger target for, like, intruders and attacks. So I'm just telling all of you this. But like, there's no way I could fight that off. I don't even know if I was big enough, if I really would, because I don't like want to like ask for trouble. I feel like I'm more of like a like in the fight or flight. I'm definitely more of the flight situation. But yeah, that's terrifying. I totally would do what they did. They like grabbed the knife and then called 911. That sounds about right. Anyway, they also said that the man was just out. Like even when they pulled the dog, Benton, the guy didn't move. And then when police officers arrived, they woke up the sleeping man and then asked him if he knew where he was. The man then said he needed his glasses, which is like, I mean, that's a pretty honest answer. Like, oh, sorry, I can't see anything. I don't have my glasses on. So it's pretty honest. But then once he put on his glasses, he looked around and then just said, "Oh yeah, this is not my house." Classic drunken New Year's crime, I guess. Yeah, man, way to start off the new year in a bad place, literally in someone else's place. And with the dog, like, does that man also have a 150-pound mastiff? Like, I feel like probably not. So that means he just woke up, like he went to someone else's house, saw a dog and a dog bed and was like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely my place. This is definitely where I belong." Like, what? No, you have to be really drunk to do that. Anyway, apparently, this man turned out to be a 21-year-old neighbor who somehow confused his house with this woman, Lynn's house, and then entered it through an unlocked side door. Yeah, you have to be really drunk to make that kind of mistake. Police also said the man was heavily intoxicated, and they had to help him get into the right house, and no charges were filed. Man, I remember, this reminds me when I was a freshman in the dorms, they would always, like, our doors would automatically lock, but sometimes people would, like, prop them open just to, like, go to the bathroom or something, but all of the like, resident advisors, the RAs on the floors, would tell, like, horror stories of, like, oh, you don't want to just leave your door propped open. Like, one time, some girl left her door propped open, and then when she came back into her dorm, there was a man asleep in her bed, which was just, like, her drunk neighbor who thought that it was his house. So, yeah, apparently it does happen. Or he didn't think it was his house, thought it was his dorm room, which in dorm rooms, like, they all kind of look the same, like, in terms of setup and layout, but you definitely, like, decorate it to your own taste. So, like, I don't know. That guy, that's not your room, obviously, but you have to be really drunk to miss that. Also, in this story, so Lynn, the dog is Benton, again, who's a 150-pound mastiff, she got him for protection. So now she's kind of in an awkward position of, like, defending her dog's honor, which, yeah, your dog's not very good at that because he literally slept in the same bed as the intruder. She said, "My dog is pretty smart. He could probably tell this kid wasn't a threat." Uh-huh. I hope that's what's going on. Like, I hope that's not just like what you tell yourself, but I don't think, I mean, maybe he just could tell the guy was drunk and just like felt bad for him or something. But yeah, that could have been really bad. Also, people who are just really drunk can be serious threats. Like, even if he hadn't hurt them, he could cause like property damage by accident, just like being drunk. So I don't know. But I will say, people who get dogs for protection, I have definitely run across a fair amount of dogs in my day that like, you know, like people teach their dogs different tricks, you know, sit, stay, roll over. Do any of you know like the trick where like they like point their finger to look like a gun at the dog and the dog just like keels over and like fake faints? Like, why would you teach your dog that trick? Because, I mean, granted, it's not so much as pointing finger guns at your dog. They're probably not a threat. But if like your dog mistook that for like a real gun, they would just roll over. Like, that's not very helpful. So I don't know. People get dogs for protection. You have to get the right kind of dog for protection. It kind of sounds like Benton's just like a softie, and it's just like, you know, his bark is worse than his bite, which is kind of sweet. That's adorable. That like a dog larger than me is just like super nice. But I guess if you have a small criminal, like a child or, you know, someone my size, I guess, like just seeing the dog would be enough to scare them. Or even if I like if that happened, if I was that intruder and the dog like just like put their paw on me and like forced me to lay down, I don't think I'd be able to get back up again. So maybe he's good for that type of crime, which is probably not the crime that she's trying to protect herself against, mostly because I don't plan on breaking into anyone's homes anytime soon. But anyway, if you're getting a dog for protection, make sure you choose the right dog, because your dog could just be really nice and loving and just like drool and be big and not actually frightening. So I don't know. Choose that wisely. But I feel bad for Benton. I hope he doesn't get too internet shamed. And I hope that she trains him better to be more of a protection dog. But not to like crazy protection where he just like bites things. But, you know, smart protection. So yeah, I wish the best for Benton and all of his intruder stopping. And that poor guy who's just super drunk. Man, super drunk. Like 21. Man, you gotta learn how much alcohol you can take or whatever. But good luck to all of them. It's also nice of them to not charge him for anything. So good for them. New Year's holiday spirit. Anyway, I'm going to take another break. And then after the break, we will conclude this episode with another weird news story. So stay tuned.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. We are continuing to talk about some weird and strange news stories. On to the next one, which is not about stranger danger, which two of our stories have been. This is about, I don't know, sickness danger. It has to do with airlines, which I generally get sick on an airplane anyway. So I feel particularly bad for the people involved in the story. I guess you'd say like the victims in this story. Anyway, officials are investigating why 6 people suddenly became ill during a New Year's Day flight. So again, another New Year's Day story. 6 unrelated passengers, so they weren't like a family who came in and like possibly shared a sickness, you know, earlier, like a bad Christmas party or something. But they fell ill on a Frontier Airlines flight that was going from Cleveland to Tampa. And this has prompted a lot of concerns about the airport water fountains, that those fountains might have been to blame, which is really gross. That's really gross. Which I guess made me think about, I don't know how they clean water fountains. Because I feel like it's certain like my electric water kettle, you know, that just I always pour water out of. I can like pour like vinegar or something in there and then like boil it and then pour it out and like rinse it and we're good. You can't just do that for like a drinking fountain that's always having water being poured out of it. So you can't just like put it in a dishwasher. So I don't know. That's concerning. Just like pour stuff down the drain, like down the little spout. I don't know. Anyway. Okay, so continuing. One of the passengers, so that they're not sure where anything happened, people just started throwing up, which again is terrible. The officials at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport have shut down several of the water fountains after these individuals became sick. And the airport spokesperson said they're not sure if the fountains caused the sudden illness or even if like the sick people drank from them. Because the people were taken offline for testing, or they said the water fountains were taken offline just for other testing because they're trying to be really cautious. Their quote is an abundance of caution, which I really hope happens in the situation because you're going to need you have to really be careful. It's kind of situation. Clearly, although you weren't cautious enough before the flight, but anyway, continuing. Also, Frontline Airlines has said that the cause of the illness is under investigation, but they have stressed that passenger safety is Frontier's number one priority. Again, these are big claims for a situation like this. The sick passengers were evaluated by health officials upon the flight's arrival in Tampa. Also, the roughly other like 260 passengers who were on board of the plane, the ones who were not sick, they had to wait on the aircraft for 90 minutes before they could leave, which sucks because you've just experienced like a bunch of throw up on a plane from Cleveland to Tampa or whatever. Was it Cleveland? Yeah, from Cleveland to Tampa. That sucks. Also, so that probably like smells bad. I mean, I'd assume that not everyone could make it to the bathroom. 6 people for what? Like maybe 2-3 bathrooms. Anyway, that's bad. So I'd be really pissed that I have to wait 90 minutes on the tarmac, like, to deal with that after experiencing sickness in the air. Like, that sounds terrible. And I'd be paranoid that I would be getting sick as just I'm like sitting on the plane getting this like recycled air. It's disgusting. They didn't specify that was if they were on the plane because they were being like health officials were confirming that the other people weren't sick, like the people on the plane who had to wait there, if they weren't sick. I'm not sure. They didn't say why they had to wait. Anyway, a Tampa International Airport spokesperson confirmed that the sick individuals were vomiting by the time they touched down in Florida. Again, that sounds awful. And a spokesperson for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, aka the CDC, said that CDC officials met local emergency responders on the plane, but they called the situation a routine illness response. However, once the plane landed and Tampa officials realized what they were dealing with, the sick passengers were referred to their personal health care providers, and then the CDC had no further involvement. Also, why would you just call that a routine illness response? 6 people throwing up is not necessarily a routine illness response. Granted, maybe they weren't like super throw up sick like when the call was originally made. It sounds like once they landed then they were all really sick, but that is very concerning. That's like bad stomach flu, and that is super gross if you got that from a drinking fountain. Like, what are you drinking? What's in the water? What's in the fountains? Like, oh God, that is really gross to me. And I, again, feel so bad for all those people who have to wait on that plane and like just deal with all the just grossness. Ugh, God. And like sit in the plane, the throw up plane, waiting to be like taken off. I'd be so mad. I'd be sending so many angry text messages. And I also have not heard of the Frontier Airlines before. I don't think they're going to be getting in any good Yelp reviews, but maybe they handle it well. I really can't tell. Anyway, air travel can always be a hassle. I feel really bad because I feel like it's even a worse hassle when you have to deal with sickness. So I'm sorry for everyone who got sick. And yeah, that was on New Year's Day. That's a bad way to start the year. Again, as I said before about some of the previous stories, it's just not good ways to start 2019. I really hope that everyone's 2019 improves who were involved in these stories. And for all of the passengers who were left on the plane, 260 people. That's tight quarters, man. I'm sorry. I hope that your year improves. Also, I just hope all the listeners who are listening have a good 2019 and just that the year can continue to just get better from here. And for all of you who I'm sure were tweeting and social media-ing about how you just can't wait for 2018 to end. I hope that 2019 is proving to be better, and just that the year can bring you joy. So thank you all so much for listening, and please tune in to the next Weird News episode.